So I've been working on this little vintage mid-century modern piece for about a week. I am about to give up on it because the drawers are super flimsy. I don't think I'm going to make a profit on it. So I think I'm going to do something a little crazy and hopefully it'll all work out. Stay tuned. This project started out very differently. So this week we're going to redo this cute little vintage dresser. I picked this up because it was close to me. I think they were asking about $30 for it. It does have a lot of damage. The drawers aren't in very good shape. There's missing hardware, holes that I'm going to have to fix. It has a huge hole in the back panel that's going to need to be replaced. But I'm thinking this has a lot of potential to be a really cute piece. Maybe a natural wood and paint two-tone combination. You can tell it's been here a while because things are starting to accumulate on it. So it's time to get this project out of my garage. So stick around and let's fix this. I started this project by removing the drawers and taking off the broken back panel. You'll see it has a really big hole right in the middle of it. But I didn't throw it away because I keep everything and try to recycle as much as I can. I got out my wood filler and started filling in all of the little scratches on the top and adding some Bondo in places that needed it. I used round dowels to fill in the hardware holes on the drawers, and then my one tool to go ahead and cut those dowels, and then I covered them with a little bit of wood filler as well so that you wouldn't be able to see where the old hardware holes were. So far, everything was going to plan. Since the top was a fiber board, it's not real wood on the top, I sanded it down, cleaned it, and then I grabbed this paint that I absolutely love. It is 1 Hour Enamel by Wise Owl, and this color is called Inkwell. It's a really dark, pretty blue. It dries a little bit darker than you can see here in the picture, but it goes on super, super smooth. I just love the feel of this paint on the paintbrush. It's one of my favorites. It does have a built-in top coat and a built-in primer. I typically still prime, however, I knew that this wood was going to absorb and hold the paint without any problem. I'm not endorsed by Wise Owl, I just like the product. Finishing up the trim here. I also love, you can see how just one coat provides really great coverage. Once I had the first coat on, I went back in with some Bondo and filled in some additional areas where I could still see scratches. And then I started working on some of the drawers. I've got a drawer over here that I'm trying to fix the side. I'm using a couple weights to hold it down. Once the drawers were sanded, I primed them with this shellac-based primer by Zinsser. I'll put all the product details in the description. I went back over my paint job with 400 grit sandpaper to get it ready for a second coat of paint, this time making sure to cover up really well all the areas that I had applied the extra Bondo. I applied an extra coat of wood filler to the 2 bottom drawers because they had a lot of scratches and dents. So once that wood filler was dry, I sanded it down, made sure that they were nice and smooth, and then I went over them with 1 coat of the Inkwell dark blue paint. I didn't prime the pieces that were going to be painted dark blue because I knew that they would cover the color of the wood with no problem. I did use primer on any parts of the dresser where I was going to be applying the white paint. My idea was kind of this really cute white and blue with a dark blue top, the top 4 drawers in white, and then the bottom 2 drawers in blue. Once the primer was dried and sanded down on the drawers, I started to apply the white paint. I knew I was going to need several coats of it, but even with the first coat, I could start to see that there were still a lot of dents and scratches. So while I put the drawers aside to dry, I started to do the top part of the sides where they were going to be part white and part blue. I used a painting technique here where I first go side to side, allowing the brush to go off of the front and the back edges to ensure that there's paint across the entire piece, and then I go long strokes down, imitating the direction that the natural wood grain would go. So it's side to side and then long brush strokes to finish off the paint. I plan to transition from white to blue, where that blue bar goes across the front of the piece. So I painted the white down below where the blue will be. And now I am measuring to see where I need to place my painter's tape. I measure the front of it first and put a little pencil mark, and then I do 3 more pencil marks all the way down so I can align them with painter's tape. I use this 2-inch painter's tape, so it gives me a little bit of room to overlap the paint. And I put it on following my pencil marks. I don't push it all the way down at this point. I just kind of gently lay it on there. I also did let the white paint dry for 24 hours before putting the tape on it. Then I keep a level handy so I can check and make sure that it's straight. And then I come in once again with my measuring tape to make sure that the distance between the tape and the bottom of the dresser is the same all the way across. In this case, I needed to adjust it just a little bit for the bottom there. And then once I had it exactly where I needed it, I'll press the tape down nice and firm. And then this is where you can use a little trick. You can either use some of your top coat, or I had some shellac handy, so I threw on my respirator and I sprayed the edge that was going to be painted with some shellac. Let that dry, and then that's going to make sure that you get a really crisp paint line. Now I'm going to come in and start painting the bottom half of the dresser in the dark blue color. I used my spray bottle and a cloth to wipe it off first to make sure that there was no dust or dirt on the surface. And then I always like to just give the surface a light spray with a misting bottle before I start painting. I don't think it's necessary with this type of paint, but I just find that it goes on a little smoother and gives me a little bit longer dry time. I'm kind of painting this at an awkward angle so you can see what I'm doing, but I'm doing long brush strokes going down the piece in the direction that the wood grain would naturally go. I'm going to do the front and the back part of it first, giving the brush an opportunity to overlap on the edge there to make sure that I get it all the way to the edge. I had already painted the front, so I'm just kind of touching it up a little bit, making sure that no paint accumulates on the edge. And then I'm just going to come in and continue painting this side. I start with my brush slightly over the top of the tape and then brush down. You don't want to brush up and risk pushing paint up under the tape, so you want to start on the top of the tape and go down. Then I'm just going to finish up now any of the other places where I need to apply my blue paint. I do have my piece on a furniture moving dolly right now, so it's really easy to just turn the piece around as I need to get to each of the sides. I do paint the under edges of the wood so that when people are laying on the floor or moving it around, everything is painted and finished. Now we're back to where we started this video, where I was getting frustrated because the drawers were just not working out. They were fake flimsy wood. The glue is showing. You can see dents. You can see scratches. This white paint is just highlighting all of the issues that these drawers have. And looking at the sides of them, you can see they're not quality wood. Honestly, at this point, I felt like I had nothing to lose, so I grabbed my jigsaw and I started removing the structure that held the top 4 drawers in place. I started with the back and then I moved to the front, and I tried to cut as straight as I could, knowing that I was probably going to have to come in and do a little bit of sanding once I got these pieces out of there. I wasn't quite sure where I was going at this point, but I realized that I had a shelf that fit into the dresser perfectly, like it was just meant to be. This came from an old desk that I had been given for free that I use for storage in my garage. Now that a plan was coming together in my mind, I went ahead and finished removing the rest of the pieces that supported the drawers from the top of the dresser. It was actually a lot easier than I thought it would be to do this, and just this basic little jigsaw worked great. Now cleaning up the back of it a little bit, you'll notice I do have safety goggles on. You always want to make sure you're protecting your eyes and making sure that you don't get any splinters or dust in them. I had to use my muscles a little bit and work that piece out of there, and then go in and remove the screws that held it in place. But here we go now. Let's turn it around. And you can see now where we used to have 4 drawers, we have this really cool open area that is going to make a great shelf. So I am changing. This is now going to become a kind of a storage unit or organizer. I had some beadboard in my garage that I had purchased for a previous project and hadn't used it all. So I cut that down to size to line the inside of the top. I do not have a nail gun. I probably need to get one. So a little trick I use here is I will put my nail in a pair of pliers, hold the pliers in place and hammer it until the nail gets started, and then I'll remove the pliers and hammer the rest of it. This protects my fingers and keeps me from hammering my fingers in place. I think you can also use a fork to do this. I've seen some people do it, but maybe someday soon I'll get a nail gun so I can do this a lot faster, quicker, and easier. I continued the process of measuring, cutting, and then nailing the inside beadboard in place until I had that entire top area lined. Still need to go in and do some trim in the corners to finish it. And for the top, if you remember the piece that was on the back, I kept that and I cut it into smaller pieces and used it to line the top. Removing the tape to show a nice crisp clean line between the 2 colors, and then a few more finishing touches and we're almost done with this piece. However, I decided that the wood was a little bit too much contrast with the white and the blue, so I decided I was going to paint it the same color of white as the top. So I cleaned it real well, gave it a gentle scuff sanding, primed it, and painted it white. Now let's take a look at where we started. And this is where we ended up. I had no idea this is what I was going to make, but I think it is absolutely adorable. I recycled some drawer pulls that I had from a previous project, and I think this would be perfect for a playroom, for a children's room. It could be an entertainment center. I lined the drawers to cover up where there were some flaws and the dirty wood, and I did paint the sides of the drawers. So what do you think? Do you like the way this turned out? Do you appreciate this upcycle? If so, please subscribe and give me a like. And I look forward to sharing my next project with you.